Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome into the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, May 15th, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm joined by Bucknuts contributor Jonah Booker. Jay Book, I did a piece for the site yesterday looking at possible trap games on Ohio State's schedule this fall. There really aren't any. The one that kept popping into my mind is the game at Michigan, but I don't think the best rivalry in college football really qualifies as a trap game. No matter how bad the Wolverines were last year, that's not a trap game. So today I want to take a look at the Buckeyes schedule and pick up the 4 toughest games in order. Forget about trap games. Let's just talk about the toughest games in order. I think the toughest game is pretty easy to mark, but it gets pretty difficult from there. I'll let you go first, and then I'll give my list. Fire away, Jay Book. What are the 4 toughest games in order for the Buckeyes this fall?
I agree with you. I'm going with Michigan State, number 1. Sparty's going to come in with a first-round talent quarterback in Connor Cook. They're looking for revenge. To me, that's the new rivalry for Ohio State is Michigan State. Those guys are going to be up for the challenge. Number 2, I have Virginia Tech. I read yesterday Virginia Tech is returning the most starters out of any team in the ACC. You know, Bud Foster's going to have that defense ready to go. They're going to prepare for Ohio State all summer. They're going to throw some type of wrinkles in there to throw Ohio State off their game in Blacksburg at night to open up the season. So I think that's going to be a challenge for Ohio State. At number 3, I actually think Michigan, just for the simple fact of the rivalry there. Jim Harbaugh is going to have those guys ready to go. And for whatever reason, Michigan always gets up for Ohio State no matter how bad they are. You look at Brady Hoke's past team, they were just absolutely horrible. For some reason, they took Ohio State to the wire several times. And then number 4, I would say Penn State at home. All of those games, you know, in the schedule besides Virginia Tech or the Big Ten East. And then I think after that, Ohio State should be rocking and rolling. You're talking about, you know, double-digit underdogs going into those games according to Vegas.
Yeah, our lists are very similar, very similar. Michigan State is number 1 on my list. I think that's a no-brainer. It's been a fun little rivalry since Urban Meyer took over. The Buckeyes went up there, took care of business in a close one, 1-point game that first year, and Michigan State returned the favor the next year in the Big Ten championship game, prevented the Buckeyes a chance from playing in the national championship, and then the Buckeyes really took it to Michigan State last year, which was really the first time Ohio State started to look like a national championship team. And they went up to East Lansing, won that game by 12 points, 49-37, but it felt like they won by like 21. They really dominated that game, if not for shooting themselves in the foot. Ohio State would have blown out Michigan State. So it has been a fun rivalry since Urban took over with D'Antonio there. So clearly Michigan State number 1. They were fortunate, just like Ohio State was, that they didn't lose top talent to the NFL draft. Like Shalik Calhoun, I thought for sure, I just had him penciled in as for sure going to the NFL. He came back. So good for Sparty. They're also doing well on the recruiting trail. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. So Michigan State number 1. Okay, I have, and I'm sure I'll get some flack from this, right front row, message board people. I'll get some flack for this, but I have at Michigan number 2. The history of that game, I think Harbaugh's going to put all his chips into winning that game. It's a lot like Jim Tressel that first year at Ohio State. He knew it didn't really matter what happened in 2001, but if he was able to beat Michigan, he knew it was going to be a successful year. Well, Tressel went 7-5, but what do we remember about 2001? Ohio State going up and beating Michigan. So I think Ohio State's going to win that game. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to put that number 2 just because it's in Ann Arbor. Even 2 years ago, a terrible Michigan team coached by Brady Hoke, the Buckeyes win by 1 point. Last year it was a close game. So, I have to put Michigan number 2. I'm going to go at Virginia Tech number 3, although I almost put them number 2 just like you had them. I'll go at Virginia Tech number 3. I think they are going to be a good team this year. They're not going to be a team that sneaks into a bowl game like last year. I think Virginia Tech's going to be a solid 9-3, maybe better than that team this year. But I think they're going to be right around 9-3 this year, playing them in Blacksburg. First game of the season, how rusty will the Buckeyes be? Who knows? But you have to think the revenge factor will be at play there. The lone loss of the national championship season, even though it was irrelevant, they still lost the game. So I have at Virginia Tech number 3. And then this one, I don't really think Penn State's going to be that close of a game, but I have Penn State 4th. The game's going to be at 9 at the Horseshoe. I really think Ohio State's going to take it to them. But look at the rest of the list. Western Michigan's going to be a solid team. At Indiana could be, somewhat of a tough game, although I doubt it. At Rutgers, same deal. So I put Penn State, almost begrudgingly, put them 4th.
I agree with that list. Pretty good. We're very close right there, but definitely Penn State at nighttime could be another situation. Last time they came to the shoe, at night just got their doors completely blown off.
Yes, they did. Buckeyes returned the 63-14 favor. I never thought I'd see that. I remember sitting in my dorm at Ohio State as a freshman in '94 watching that horrible game. The Buckeyes lost 63-14 thinking, oh, we'll never see anything like that again. Of course, Buckeyes in 2013 returned the favor with the exact score, beating the Nittany Lions 63-14. And I'm somebody who thinks Christian Hackenberg isn't just overrated, but is extremely overrated. Yeah, not a tough slate for the Buckeyes this fall. That's putting it mildly when Penn State is fourth. All right, moving on. Offensive line recruiting. Juwan Williams, Bill Kurelic did a piece yesterday on him. I kind of had him, as a guy that I thought was a real long shot. Maybe he is a long shot, Jay Book, but the 4-star offensive tackle tells our Bill Kurelic that he will definitely visit Ohio State this summer, either in June or July. For those that are wondering or don't know, he's a 6'7", 303-pound kid. He's out of Washington, D.C. He's the number 14 offensive tackle recruit in the country, number 127 overall in that 2016 class. Looking at the crystal ball, Bama is a 50% favorite here. You have half the crystal ball picks going toward the Crimson Tide, but Maryland checks in at 33%, and Ohio State checks in at 17%. He's got several top offers at Florida. He's strongly looking at the Gators. He's looking at Tennessee, many, many others. But, Jay Book, I like the fact that Larry Johnson is recruiting him. I just like the Buckeyes' chances here for some reason. He would obviously be the final offensive lineman in the class. The problem here, he's not going to announce till signing day, so the Buckeyes are going to have to wait this out. Give us your insights on the Juwan Williams recruitment. Do you think the Buckeyes have much of a shot here, or do you consider them pretty much a long shot?
To me, it's going to depend on who else on the offensive line is going to, pop up from now until signing day. It could be a situation where Ohio State is going to have to tell Williams, hey, make a decision, or we're going to have to go ahead and fill that spot. Or it could be an Isaiah Prince type situation, another Maryland kid, offensive tackle, Larry Johnson was on, takes it all the way to signing day, and boom, picks Ohio State. The Buckeyes are building that relationship. I think it's going to be a situation where they're going to roll the red carpet out come this summer when he visits and continue to foster it. But, with Ohio State, it's a numbers crunch right now. They already have 3 guys in. I'm surprised they're actually pursuing, another offensive lineman, but I guess it's contingent on if it's the right, high-profile tackle. But like you said, 6'7" guy, you can't teach size. He has incredible lean for a tackle, continue to get stronger in the weight room, and you're talking about a bookend, potential left tackle here. So I can understand Ohio State's reason to say, hey, even though, we may be tight on numbers, you can never have enough quality offensive linemen.
And I talked to our Alex Gleitman last night, and he thinks that if they don't get Williams, they're just going to stick at 3. And I know everybody who follows Ohio State recruiting knows that. They're happy with just 3 in this class. And we had Dwayne Long on the show on Wednesday. I mean, it's just, we've quickly gotten to a point where Ohio State is finally where they should be with offensive line recruiting. For years, it was like, man, they need to take at least 5, and they're only taking 3, or they need to take 4, and they're only taking 2. Well, last year they got 6. They've been just recruiting so well at the offensive line position that they put themselves in a spot where they can only take 3 and be happy with it, and they already have 3. So Juwan Williams would be icing on the cake. We'll see. He's going to announce on CBS Sports on signing day. So we all wait till signing day. So strap yourself in, Bucknutters. Moving on. Now, Jay Book, you played college football at Ohio University. You experienced a coaching change. You're a good guy, a perfect guy to get some insights about this. Michigan is experiencing some attrition there. I tend to think it's natural attrition. I mean, you have Blake Countess is now leaving the program. Jack Miller left. Dennis Norfleet was kicked off. There's been some other guys that have left the program. I think that's natural when a new coach takes over. I mean, you look when Urban Meyer took over, and not even at Ohio State. A few guys left at Ohio State, of course, but when he first took over at Bowling Green, I think I read it was like 25% of the roster left within his first month. He was just running guys off who weren't, tough enough to be there or just didn't want to be there, whatever. Do you think this is, and of course Ohio State fans are chalking this up as this is Jim Harbaugh rubbing people wrong. He's not a good fit. He doesn't play well with others. Do you think it's that? Do you think it's Harbaugh being just an abrasive guy, or do you think it's natural that there's this much attrition when a new coach takes over a college football program?
I think it's a little bit of both. Jim Harbaugh's personality and the way he rubs people wrong is well documented. But at the same time, as you mentioned, when new coaches come in, they want their own kids, and sometimes, they're going to, really hammer the kids that are there to see who's really dedicated and committed to the program. At the same time, Jim is coming into a situation where Michigan was bad. They were horrible. They were down. The talent was, never there with Brady Hoke. They had the highly regarded recruiting rankings, but those kids never panned out, and a lot of that is due to player development. So you're looking at a situation where Jim has to really balance, not running off too many kids and being somewhat competitive, but also, generating enough spots so that he can start bringing in his own recruits. Coaches, they want kids who are going to fit their scheme. Nobody really knows, what Jim is going to do on the offensive, defensive side of the ball compared to what Brady Hoke. But I can understand him wanting his own players. But make no mistake about it, Jim Harbaugh wears people out with his personality. He grinds. The guy is a little cuckoo as is. So I can understand where some kids may not be, too thrilled with playing, with this type of abrasive personality.
And I think it hurts them on the recruiting trail. Our last topic here, Michigan, I keep waiting for the Harbaugh effect to go into effect. And here they are. They still just have 6 commitments in their 2016 class. They're ranked 29th in the 24/7 Sports Composite. And we're getting to the point of the recruiting season where they need to turn things around in a hurry, or they're going to be on the outside looking in at even a top 15 class. I really thought, I didn't think they were going to sign a top 5 class this year, don't get me wrong, but I thought, if you would have asked me on signing day, I would have told you Michigan's 2016 class will be a top 10 class, maybe a fringe top 10, but right around there. Well, there's no way they're going to have a top 10 class. They better just hope they're going to be in the top 20 or top 15 at this point. Again, Michigan only ranked 29th. For some perspective, Ohio State ranked number 2 with 15 commitments. No surprise, the Buckeyes recruit extremely well, especially under Urban Meyer, coming off a national championship. Of course they're going to recruit well. Where this really should set up warning signs for Michigan fans, though, is Michigan State is now 9th in the 24/7 Sports Composite. They have 12 commitments. They're doing a great job. They're getting guys from Michigan that Michigan wants. They're getting other guys that Michigan wants. They're getting, guys that top programs want. So credit to Michigan State. Penn State, they're doing okay, not quite as good as I thought they'd do in year 2 of the James Franklin era. They have 6 commitments, and they're ranked 20th. But J-Book, Michigan, 29th. Usually it's that second year, or that, I guess this is technically Harbaugh's second year, his second class. Usually when a coach takes over, there's a huge boost. Maybe not right away. He only had about a month before signing day, but I certainly thought there'd be a big boost with this 2016 class, and we're not seeing it. It must be his personality. It must be part of that. Your thoughts on Michigan really struggling on the recruiting trail?
Couple things. That's a lot to digest there, what you said, but I'll start with Michigan. You're looking at a situation where they are struggling on the recruiting trail. They're behind right now. Urban Meyer and D'Antonio, they've had the ability to build relationships, with high school coaches and recruits. Michigan, they are, to be fair, they are kind of getting started, but there's no buzz within that program right now. You look at Ohio, Michigan is nowhere to be found when it comes to, getting the top premier kids from Ohio. They're struggling in Michigan. Michigan State is absolutely hammering those guys on the recruiting trail. Jim Harbaugh is trying to go national, but the problem is Michigan brand nationally with these kids is not strong enough to really have that type of draw. Any kids that they're going to be looking at as national kids is going to go all the way up to signing day, because a lot of those same kids are going to have multiple offers from other Power 5 conferences. So as far as Michigan, when's the last time Michigan been good? 2006. 2006, these kids were in elementary school. So the kids that are coming out right now that are recruits, they don't remember when Michigan was, competitive or, any type of power when it comes to major college football. Michigan State, those guys are really bringing it. A lot of people question if Michigan State's success was going to be sustainable. But if you look at what they're doing right now, they're bringing in some high-quality prospects. The rumors are out there that those guys are their favorite to land Josh King and Austin Robertson out of Indiana, 2 bookend defensive ends that anyone in the country would love to have. They were targets at Ohio State, but Ohio State looks like they're going to go ahead and wrap it up at defensive end with Bosa. But if you look at the talent that Michigan State is bringing in, those guys are setting Michigan up, to be third tier in the Big Ten East, depending on if Penn State can continue to recover from their sanctions. So, my question is what is the Michigan faithful going to do? Jim was brought in to be the savior. He's riding in on his, white unicorn to save the program, but he's coming into a situation where Ohio State is completely loaded. They're coming off a national championship with Urban Meyer, and at this point, Ohio State is picking their recruits as far as recruiting, and Michigan State is at the top of their game, the best that we've seen in years for Michigan State, and it looks like they're going to be here to stay for a while. Penn State is still going to be competitive under James Franklin, so if Jim Harbaugh is not able to get that Michigan program back, where do they turn then?
Great insights out of Jonah Booker, a.k.a. J-Book. Really appreciate it, my man. I also appreciate all the listeners out there. Thanks to you guys for tuning into the show. Hope you have a great day and a great weekend. Take it away, best damn band in the land.